Good morning everyone, welcome to Join the Dots. We've had a very busy first week. Hopefully we'll get a lot more views as the news spreads that this is a service to be trusted in a world of noise. My feed on my phone is just noise everywhere. Everyone, oh this, oh that, oh the end of the world. No, it's not. It's not. We'll come through this. We'll just come out of it in a very different shape. And that's what we're going to talk about through this process of joining the dots. How the world is going to change and how you need to be prepared to get maybe not the very best of a change, but at least be protected. No one can get the very best. You can't get the top of a market. You can't get the bottom of a market, not unless you're very lucky. When COVID hit during the beginning of 2020, I called the S&P down to 2,000 to 22 and it bottomed at 2198. You've got to be lucky. Okay, you've just got to be lucky. That is not skill. You can get the trend and you can get that right, but to call a number is ridiculous. So a lot of people are asking me, gold, silver, what price, what price? I'll just tell you, it's a lot higher and it's a long journey. And that's the bottom line. It's a lot higher and a long journey. So let's talk about some of the things that have come about this weekend, which really interest me, okay? Sensational headline, fire in a theatre. What do you do when you hear fire in a theatre? So you do the same as tsunami alert, don't you? You just run. You just run. Tsunami alert, you're okay. There's a lot of beach, there's a lot of land, there's a lot of places to run. Fire in a theatre, much more difficult. So it depends what market you're in as to whether you're in a theatre or you're on a tsunami alert. But let's run through some things here. I'm going to give you, first of all, I'm going to start with a Neil Oliver interview on the Dr. John Campbell YouTube. I really want you to watch this. It's 10 minutes, okay? And it's the Neil Oliver story. Now, Neil Oliver is a brilliant commentator, very mild, just looking for the truth like me. He's just looking for the truth. He's not trying to sensationalise anything. He never does. He's looking for the truth. So watch it. And John Campbell's exactly the same. When I first came across John Campbell's YouTube, maybe he had 200,000 subscribers. He's now got 3.2 million globally because he just gives the truth. So that's where I'm looking. 3.2 million, that would be nice. Okay, so the Neil Oliver story. So go on to John Campbell's YouTube. Okay, it's a 10-minute chat by two very intelligent people who have nothing to gain from anything they say other than to help you with the truth. Okay, so start there. And the bottom line is John Campbell equates where we are today to the end of the First World War. And what that means is the age of deference is over. Before the First World War, the British Empire, blah, 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 there was deference. Everyone trusted the government, etc., etc. But the First World War blew that apart. And I think COVID, in particular, has blown apart the confidence that anyone had in its government, in the institutions, in the supranational agencies, UN, WHO, WEF, not that anyone had confidence in the WEF anyway, other than the very, very rich elite who love it to bits, but that's a warning, isn't it? So, what have we got? We've got the end of the age of deference, and I talked about confidence yesterday. Confidence is shattered in so many areas. One of the areas is corporates looking forward. Corporates, what are they doing? They're laying off staff. They're laying off staff. That's their view on the future. So we look at, who did we have? I told you about Winnebago. And here's another one in the same field really, although a bit more upmarket, Sunseeker, the yacht company, laying off staff. And here's the killer. This is the one you need to take notice of. PricewaterhouseCoopers, laying off staff. They're looking ahead. They're not reading the newspapers about what happened last year. They're looking ahead to next year and they're laying off staff. What happens when staff get laid off? They don't have the ability or the confidence to make purchasing decisions. The economy shrinks. It starts off with a few hundred there, a few hundred here, a few hundred there, and it ends up in the tens of thousands monthly, losing. Think of COVID, think of the lockdowns, and think of the amount of jobs that were put on furlough. Okay, so there are some really interesting sites this weekend. I spent an awful lot of time researching this, as I always do. When I say to you I spend 8 hours a day, probably 6, maybe 7 days a week, there's no word of a lie there. There's no word. I am fascinated because in my life I have never seen the world in such a precarious position in every respect, as I explained yesterday with confidence. And even the judiciary, I mentioned the judiciary yesterday, and you're probably thinking, what's that got to do with us, judiciary? Have a look today at this story coming out about the BBC and their cover of Glastonbury. So an act went on the stage and screamed a political message about Gaza, about the Israelis, and it's no nicer, it's as bad as the tweet from Lucy Connolly. Now, Lucy Connolly's tweet, for which she's jailed for 2.5 years, was a private tweet which went public on Twitter, obviously, on X, but that was then taken down. This act have broadcast it live on the BBC across the world. Anyone watching Glastonbury saw it. BBC has already taken it off the iPlayer and won't repeat it. Doesn't matter. Lucy Connolly retracted her tweet. Didn't matter, did it? What did Keir Starmer say? He wanted serious charges, serious sentence for Lucy Connolly, who got 2.5 years for her tweet. So what's this band going to get? Are we going to see equal justice? No, we're not. Are they going to get charged? I doubt it. Will it be a serious charge? I doubt it. Will there be any consequences? I doubt it. So, do we have justice? Confidence in the justice system is disappearing. It's a convenient justice system, not a fair justice system. Convenient to whom? Convenient to the government, not to the people. We'll come back to that theme. Okay, so some short stories here. China's deal. You need to understand the detail. You know, I know, everyone knows the devil's in the detail. We all know that. The noise is the news, and then you go into the detail to find what it is. I'd suggest you listen to Lei's Real Talk. I really recommend this lady. Her site is brilliant. LEI'(S) Real Talk. She talks about China with so much knowledge, with so many connections, with so much information. And you know that China is at the heart of what we're seeing across the world now. Everything has been influenced by China, and everything coming will be influenced by the Chinese economic implosion and the banking crisis that is coming. I've told you. Then there's a guy called Tony on China Update. Now, it's not the China story I'm focusing on here. He's also got a site now that he's created called Market Update, because he's had such a good response to China Update. He's now made it Market Update and a bit more general world news. The global crisis odds is the headline of that particular issue that I think you should watch. 10 minutes? Okay, 10 minutes. I've watched it maybe 4, maybe 5 times. Tony's very good. He gives you data. And like the other site I've given you, Eurodollar University, they give you data, they give you facts. They don't give you too much opinion, they just give you the facts so that you can decide, or you can rely on me to interpret it, because I'm watching all of these. I'm reading them every day. Every single day I'm reading all these sites. And I've narrowed these sites down over 5 years of research to get to the ones that tell the truth. Because the others are just noise, hot air. It's rubbish, absolute rubbish. So confidence and dollar concerns, these are big issues. And where did I see it from? My favourite economist of all time is a gentleman called Mohammed El-Erian, who used to be part of PIMCO. He's also, I think he's the head of Queen's College, Cambridge. Okay, he's an incredibly well-respected gentleman who has to temper his views because he's a Bloomberg, what do they call them, commentator or whatever. he has to temper his views. But what he says, if you listen carefully, is very profound. And there's an interview on, it's called Quest Means Business. That's Richard Quest, who I don't like at all because he's just too noisy. Too noisy, Richard. Calm it down, calm it down. So Richard Quest, but he has this program called Quest Means Business. And on there this weekend was Mohammed El-Erian, and I really encourage you to listen to Mohammed. He has no edges. He's just, again, a man who tells the truth. But you have to interpret from what he says, because he's not going to go out there on a limb because he's got too many commitments to too many places of authority that would be challenged if he was to be a bit too honest, as I would call it. Okay? But confidence and dollar concerns he talks about. You must understand the weakness of a dollar, the confidence in the system. You have to understand those. And you can see that this is the worst 6 months that the dollar's had at the beginning of a year since, when was it? 1972. That's right, 53 years. The year after the dollar came off the gold standard. There's a lesson there. Okay. So an awful lot of things. One other article which you might want to watch if you want to. If you want some sensationalism, look at Andy Schectman on $2 investing. And that's all in words, $2 investing. Okay. Andy Schectman noticed that why did silver get hit this week when it came to the contract, the end of the contracts? Why did it get hit? 76,000 new shorts were opened in silver. Do you know what that means? As I understand it, it's 5,000 ounces per contract. So if you times 76,000 by 5,000, which is 76 million times 5, which is almost 400 million, that's a half a year's silver production, shorted on one day. I know why. I'm hoping you're going to understand why. Because we've talked about it. If they short it that day, they take the price out for another 3 months or whatever period, and they keep the price held down. Otherwise, the price could have shot up. 76,000 5,000 ounce contracts. That is on a site called $2 Investing. It's worth watching. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin, which is a precious metal dealer in America, but he's an incredible historian of the whole market. He's not just selling, and he doesn't just sell, and he doesn't even sell. I like him a lot. He's a good guy. He tells you the truth from a knowledge base that is intense. Okay, so we've got the Neil Oliver story, we've got Andy Schectman, we've got Mohammed El-Erian, we've got China Update. We've got a lot of information coming at us, okay, this weekend, a lot of information. And I really want you to understand China's role in all of this, in everything. And you can almost say, well, where did COVID come from? China. Everything since then. The Chinese property collapse, 47 trillion losses. Okay, we now have trade tariff talk because of China. Everything is because of China. You have to understand that. And if you don't accept it, you're never going to understand the truth that's coming. You just won't accept it. So you have to understand that everything goes all the way back to what's happened in the last, the consequences of what's happened in the last 5 years. The build-up has been painfully slow since 2001 when China entered the WTO. The connection between governments and large corporates and agencies to come together against the best interests of the people. It is rife everywhere. Corporate fascism is everywhere. Sadly, medical fascism followed that trail. And I gave you a presentation on medical fascism last week, and I see it's got the least amount of views. Please watch it. Because from health, everything flows. Even wealth. You have to be healthy. Okay, so that medical fascism, join the dots. You need to watch it, I'm afraid. And then when you watch John Campbell's interview with Neil Oliver, you'll learn a lot more. And then you can start looking at the sites of V. John Health, Robert Malone on Substack, Peter McCullough, the very, very best scientists. And guess what? I found 5 of them, day 1 of COVID, and they've never, ever, ever been wrong. Peter McCullough, Robert Malone, Pierre Corey, Ryan Cole, Professor Geert van der Bosch. None of them have been wrong. My skill is finding the truth tellers, the people who want you to know the truth. Then you can make the right decisions. But if you're given a pack of lies and your assumptions are based on those lies, ultimately the truth does come out. It takes some time, but ultimately it comes out. Now, I know that a lot of people are waiting for, what's the investment advice? It's coming. But you have to, if you're building a project, you have to start with the foundations. You have to start laying all the bricks that make the whole edifice stand and be stable. Okay? So let's get all the facts, let's get all the truths, let's understand where the corruption is, and it is systemic. Understand that. Then we can start to move towards which investments make most sense. They won't be advice. I don't give advice. I will tell you what I've done. You can draw your own conclusions. Okay, thank you very much for watching. There's an awful lot in this, and there's a bit of work for you to do if you want to confirm the truth that I'm telling you. If not, rely on me. I'll find it, I'll present it, and I'll present it in a very honest and open way. Thank you very much.